Om Sam Saraswati Namaha Namaste. We were previously talking about devotion. What does it mean to be devoted? What does it mean to be in love? How do you feel when you're in love? You watch your clock? Do you watch your time? Do you get hungry all the time? Or do you just forget about everything and think about your beloved? We talked about the 9 steps of devotion which Ram learned from his guru Vashishta, and he told to Shabari in Matang Muni's ashram, and Shabari allowed us to share in those 9 steps of devotion. First and foremost is satsang. And that's just what we're doing tonight. Now, we have been collecting schools of philosophy and schools of yoga and schools of Sanskrit and definitions and levels of consciousness. And we went through the 36 principles by which the Supreme descended to manifested existence, because we're going to call this a lower state than being in perfect union with her own self. And then use those 36 principles, those 36 steps to return to that perfection of union. Now, all of this knowledge that we have collected, all of these declensions, 8 steps of yoga and 6 chakras to pierce, and 5 kinds of breath, and all of these various lists of knowledge come from the Vedas. So I'd like to speak a little bit about Vedas. Veda is a great word in itself. Some people call it knowledge. I don't like that definition. Some people call it wisdom. That's a little bit better. And some people say it's more of wisdom as it evolves. It is what is to be known. It's what we're seeking for. It's the apex, or the wisdom as it evolves in practice, in application. The application of wisdom, which is even more important than the wisdom, because, you open up Kotu Vedanto Painayanto Kuche Beraya Andokare. How many books of wisdom, how much Vedas, Vedanta, all these books of wisdom? I don't find you there. That's not the wisdom that we're seeking. We're seeking the real wisdom. The wisdom that makes us go inside and make the changes that are necessary so that we become the individuals that we respect the most. So originally, there are 4 Vedas. Veda Vyas, a great story. Matsya Ganda was paddling the boat. Parasar Rishi said, I have this, I'm overcome with the desire for Kama Atur. For this, I have to seek immediate intimacy with you right now. There is some reason, some soul must come through our union. She said, we're in a boat, and you don't know how to swim. Please don't do this in the boat. Let's at least go to the island. So they went to the island in the middle of the river, and Parashar said, hey, come Matsya Ganda, there is some necessity for us to make love immediately. Matsya Ganda said, I smell like a fish. Matsya Ganda, I smell like a fish. How can you want to unite with me and as I smell as a fish? She said, if you're going to do this with me now, I want you to give me a boon. He said, yes, I'll give you the boon. Matsya Ganda said, take away my fish smell. Parashar said, Tatastu. And he made her the most attractive scent. That scent, the fragrance which exuded from Matsya Ganda attracted every species of the world. They were all in love with Matsya Ganda. And she said, oh, okay, now I don't smell like a fish. Now, this is a terrible thing you're going to do in broad daylight, everybody can see. Anybody walking down either path along the river is going to see, and I'm certainly going to be a person of ill repute. I'll be held to scorn. Parashar said, okay, I will create clouds around the island. Nobody can see even the island. Matsyagandha said, well, give me one more boon. I want the son that's born from our union to be the most intelligent, the most highly respected, the most well-renowned scholar of Vedic literature and in the history of all of the Sanatana Dharma. Parashar said, I give you that boon. He will be known as Veda Vyas. Vyas means a propounder of 1,000 verses of the Vedas. Veda Vyas. He was the propounder of 1,000 verses. So Parashara and Matsyagandha made love there on the island. And Parashara bowed down and said, thank you very much. And he took his leave. Matsyagandha gave birth to Veda Vyas, and Veda Vyas came out of the womb. He took a bath. He started to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And he said, thank you very much, Mother. Now I'm going to propound the Vedas. Now, up until the birth of Veda Vyas, there was only one Veda. And it was humongous. It was of such size, no one could grasp it. So the first thing Veda Vyas did was to divide the Vedas into 4 Vedas. And he divided all the Vedic literature into the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, the Sam Veda, and Atharva Veda. Now let's see if there was each of the Vedas, the Rig Veda is the wisdom achieved or attained through hymns and songs of praise. The Yajur Veda is the wisdom that comes from union through sacrifice, and not just sacrifice in the fire, which is very important, but also not just the ritual sacrifice, but the sacrifice of ego, the union between the Atma and the Paramatma, the Yajur Veda. Sama Veda is the union, the wisdom that comes through song. So they gave a Sama notation. Most of the Sama Veda is contained within the Rig Veda, with the difference or the distinction that the Sama Veda has a Sama notation. So it says when you go high, when you go low, where you dip, and where you and you can do something. I can't do it. I'm sorry. There are all these certain species of Brahmins that can make those sounds. I wouldn't even purport to. I only want to understand what they're saying. And Atharva Veda was the 4th one. Atharva was a name of Shiva. And Atharva Veda is the Veda of practice. How do you employ this knowledge? How do you use this knowledge? How do you live life because of the wisdom of Vedas? So these were the 4 Vedas which Veda Vyas defined and distinguished from each other, and he segregated the knowledge and he encoded them into different canons: Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharva. So those are the 4 Vedas. Now, from each of the Veda he took one Mahavakya, one great statement which summarized the essence of that Veda. The wisdom to be achieved through the Rig Veda, the knowledge of hymns, was Prajnanam Brahma. The wisdom of nature is God. And from the Yajur Veda he said, Tat Twam Asi, that is you. From the Atharva Veda he said, Ayam Atma Brahma. This soul, Ayam Atma Brahma, is God. And from the Sama Veda, Aham Brahmashmi. I am that supreme divinity. And the four Vedas give four Mahavakyas, four great statements, which define the essence of the wisdom of that knowledge. And it makes one very, very beautiful poem, in English at least, Prajnanam Brahma, Tat Twam Asi, Ayam Atma Brahma, Aham Brahmashmi. I recommend that you all learn that little poem because it shows four different ways that this individual soul unites with the Supreme Soul and becomes one. So then he looked at all of those hymns and all of those mantras of Yajna, of the Yajur Veda, and all the mantras, the songs of Samaveda, and he looked at all that was there in the Atharva Veda. He divided each of those into four parts again. And he said, it's still too much to get in your brain. He divided the four parts into Samhita, which is the hymns, and the Brahmanas, which describe the systems of worship, like the Puja Padoti, the books of worship, Etiganta Pushpa. You put this flower there saying this mantra. The Oranyak, which are the tales of the rishis living in the forest, the stories of the gods and the kings, and the applications of spiritual knowledge. Almost all of the stories of the Vedas, and especially later in the Puranas, they tell the king who got into trouble, and he ran away from the kingdom, and he got to the rishi's ashram, and he said, Rishi, poor me, what shall I do? And the rishi said, chant this mantra, do this puja, sing this song, do this yajna, do this, and they found a solution to the problem. Those were the Aranyak and the Upanishads. So we have four parts of the four Vedas, the Samhita, the hymns, the Brahmanas, the Puja Padoti, how do you do what puja when, the Aranyaks, the stories, and the Upanishads, which are the philosophy. And then they made a number of Upavedas, which are almost Vedas. They're nearly Vedas. And they discuss a number of other branches which will be pertinent to life, but not necessarily part of the highest wisdom of the union of the individual soul with the Supreme Soul. And they have the Ayurveda, the wisdom of life. And that tells you how do you maintain balance between your tan, mon, dan, and atma. You keep your body and your mind and your soul and your wealth and your goal and your focus all in this harmony. Dhanurveda, the knowledge of weapons. And also in Dhanurveda you have the knowledge of diplomacy. So you have four aspects of every negotiation: Sama, Dhamma, Dandabhed. Every negotiation you come as friends and equals, and you look for a positive resolution of your differences. Dhamma, where it's necessary, you surrender and submit and look for things that you can give to enhance your position, or maybe make your position a little less obstructive or a little more palatable. Bhed means I'm going to try and make some dissension or I want to separate you from your allies so you become more reliant on me. And then there's confrontation as the last resort. So that's part of Dhanurveda. And then we have Sthapatya Veda, which is how do you construct things that remain? A lot of people think of a sthapati as an architect. But actually, we are engineering longevity. We're not engineering transience or obsolescence. We're engineering longevity. So we want stapan means something, we're to establish something that remains. Doesn't mean we're going to establish something, get my money, and run. I want to be there to see the descendants and descendants, generation by generation, coming to enjoy the things that we have established. We're adding value to the culture and not just taking value. So every time I see a bridge fall down or hear a building collapse, I think, what kind of a stapati performed that kind of action? That's in transgression of the religious duty to make something that remains. So now when we take all of this knowledge and cultivate this knowledge, we find there are 5 principal deities to whom devotion can be offered. Well, Hinduism divided all the worship into 5. The 5 divisions of Hinduism, which means you're either a worshiper of Shiva, of Vishnu, the Divine Mother Shakti, Ganesh, or Surya, and the 9 planets. Those are the 5 divisions, and worship can be as simple or as complex as anyone chooses. A great story of the farmer who was sitting in the back of the temple back there, listening to the discourse of this learned pundit. And the pundit was going on and on and on in Sanskrit about the Bhagavad Gita and Sri Krishna's discourse with Arjuna. The farmer was sitting in the back of the temple listening to the discourse, and he was crying and crying. And then he got up to go, and the pundit motioned to him, you please sit down, please, and I want to talk to you at the end of this discourse. And the pundit went on and on and on, talking again in Sanskrit and quoting all the great philosophers and all the literature. And the farmer was crying and crying and crying, and then he got up and started to leave. And the pundit motioned, you sit down, I want to talk to you at the end of this discourse. And the pundit went on and on and on and on and on again. And finally he stopped and everybody left. And he went up to the farmer and said, Farmer, you don't appear to me to be an extremely educated man. You look like a simple farmer. And there I was discoursing in Sanskrit and talking in very high language and with grammatical accuracy, and I had such a learned discourse, and there you were crying and crying and crying. Why were you crying? The farmer said, Panditji, I have to confess, I didn't understand a word that you said. But as you were speaking, I couldn't help but picturing Sri Krishna standing on his chariot talking to Arjuna. And that darshan was so intense, I couldn't help but cry. So worship can be as simple as you choose or as complex as you choose. We have made, everybody knows, we made beginners, intermediate, advanced, postdoc. We made all kinds of pujas for all kinds of people. As you choose, so you will worship. No one has the right to legislate your worship. So worship can be as simple as offering 4 articles. In Bhagavad Gita, of course, it says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya pratyachati. Whoever will offer me even a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or some water, I accept that offering of devotion from the soul who makes effort. So it could be really simple. I remember my days as a wandering sadhu. I used to walk down the bank of the river and find a nice stone and stand it up and pour some water over his head and offer some little pebbles around it, and that was my Shiva puja. We had many instances of making yagyas by putting a gamcha with a yantra on it and offering muri to the yantra for every verse of the chandi. We would draw a yantra in the sand and offer leaves from the trees. We made very simple pujas and very simple yagyas. And Yame Bhaktya Pratyachati, whoever will offer to me with devotion. That was the important thing. It was never a question of what are you offering to me. It's a question of with what intensity of devotion are you offering? Well, worship can be made with 5 articles. Panchopachar puja, there's lights, incense, flowers, some food or fruit, and water. So you can make it one step up from the 4 articles is worship with 5 articles. And worship can be performed with 10 articles. So you have lights, incense, flowers, food offering, water, a cloth, umbrella, a fly whisk, a fan, and a mirror. We're getting pretty sophisticated now. You can make dasopachar puja. And the more ingredients you offer, the more meaning comes to the puja, the greater the definition of my offering. Like darpanang bimalang ramyang, shudh bimba pradayakam, atma bimba pradarshartam, arpayami sureshwari. I'm offering to you this mirror, which is the purest reflection of the being that I love the most. The one I want to unite with. The one I want to demonstrate. Who could be the greatest reflection to me? The Guru, the illuminator, the example. Who is the greatest example to me that I could possibly come? Atma bimba pradarshartam, for the purpose of giving you a reflection of my soul. Who in my soul, who in my consciousness, who in my awareness is the greatest example of what I could possibly become? For this reason, I'm offering you a mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? That's my Guru, the one I want to become like. As much as we offer so great, so broadly, so much does the meaning and method of our devotion expand. And it's ever expansive. So that's why we try to incorporate more things and more articles, because each one of them has a specific meaning in my life, in my way of life, in my attitude towards life, in my value system, in my goals, in my aspirations. What do I want to become? This is the issue. What is the greatest me that I could possibly be? Now, can I expand my puja, my worship, my synthesis, my collection of all the knowledge that I've gained of philosophy, of Sanskrit, of grammar, of pronunciation, of yoga and asana and pranayama and mantras and mudras and kriyas, and all this philosophy that I'm gathering sitting up here on top of a mountaintop, can I gather that all up and make that into an offering that has meaning, sufficient to change my life? That's my goal. If I were satisfied with me as I am, I would never climb the mountain. Obviously, I wanted to change. I wanted to add even one letter of the knowledge of Brahman, and let that listen to the great words of wisdom from the Vedas. Remember Shankaracharya's Sadhana Panchakam? Just one letter, and that's why I climbed this mountain, hoping that she would say one syllable, one pad, one akshar, or kshar, the infinite, the Shabda Brahma. She would put me into that vibration so that I could make one little addition to this being and make me a better person because of having that. Worship can be offered with 16 articles. Shorasopachar. Lights, incense, flowers, cloth, sacred thread, rudraksha, sindur, kumkum, sandal paste. Give her a mala, some food, water, an umbrella, a fly whisk, fan, and a mirror. You can keep going. There's no end. Just each one of these articles that we give her, we got 5 lights on our deepa. And we're offering, our 5 senses are filled with light. And this is my offering to you. That's why I'm offering you 5 lights. Because it's not just the lights that I'm holding in my hand, it's the lights I'm holding in my head. All my 5 senses are filled with light. Every one of these articles that we're offering to our beloved is the demonstration of the highest respect. And it expands our awareness beyond the little me, so that I can think about the bigger picture. What do I really aspire to contribute to this world because of my presence here? Is it just get as much for me as I can and then run off and brag about, I get the bragging rights of how much I collected? Or is it to empower others? And when I empower others, I become empowered myself. So each one of these objects that I'm offering to my goddess is something that helps to empower me to become a greater individual, to make a greater contribution. And that's why we're offering not just the things, but we're going into the garden of delight and pulling out all the ingredients of the puja. Here's your silk sari. Here are your golden ornaments. Here is the sumptuous feast that I prepared for you. Here, all the flowers are in the garden of delight. And that's right here. All you got to do is reach inside, and if you're missing any article outside, just pull it out of your heart and make the offering. Worship can be performed with more than 16 articles. So, more than 16 articles is known as Rajopachar, an offering of a king. And there are different baths. We give rainwater, we give Ganga water, we give Jamna water, we give Godavari water, we give Mandakini water, and there are scents and jewels and ornaments, and the list is limited only by your imagination. Each one of them is offered with a mantra which has a definition, and the definition is the depiction of an attitude, and the attitude is something we want to demonstrate to people we love. Especially to the gods and goddesses that we worship. I want to demonstrate the sincerity of my attitude to those whom I love. And I want it to be unequivocal, so there is no question in your mind about the intensity of my love. There should never be a doubt. So therefore, I'm going to look for little things I can offer from the Garden of Delight, just to demonstrate the sincerity and the regularity, the continuity, the efficiency of my love. Because I love, I'm going to pay attention. And when I pay attention, I won't make mistakes. And when I don't make mistakes, I don't have to go back and do it again. And when I don't have to go back and do it again, I save time, I save money, I save resources, I save a lot of nonsense of running around in a circle thinking, oh, poor me. So this will be the demonstration of my love. How many articles can you offer? Can you offer every action that you perform every day? Can you offer your cooking? Can you offer your cleaning? Can you offer your chopping wood and carrying water? Can that be the demonstration of your love? Because that's where we're going with this. Rajopachar. The king was privileged to administrate on behalf of all the subjects of the kingdom. They're all his children. It wasn't the king was a bogey who sat on the throne and gave orders and said, you do this and you do that. He was the chief administrator who wanted to make sure every one of his children was purna. Purnamadaha purnamidam purnat purnamadachyate. He wanted them to be full and complete and perfect in every way they could possibly could become. Sri Varchaswam Ayusham Arogyam Avidat Pavamanamikiyate. He wanted their highest respect and the highest wisdom and freedom from disease and full of Dhanam Dhanam Pashum Bahuputram Lavam Shatasang Vatsaram Dirgamayo. That was his blessing to all the people. Have a life of 100 years with no paucity, no want, no neglect, everything is full and complete and perfect for yourselves and for your children, your children's children to the 7th generation. That was the privilege of a king. That's why this is called a Raj Upachar, the offerings of a king. That's what it meant. A king does everything. He just gives it all. Everything he does is for others. This king was a sannyasi sitting on a throne. Took nothing for himself. The king was the administrator, the head of the family. He wants the best for the family. He wants to harmonize the goals of each of the individual members of the family into one family plan. That was the original meaning of family planning. Not how many children are you going to have, but how do we take care of all of them? What's in the best interest of all the children of my kingdom, of my family? The king was the father of the family. Well, let's pause here, and we'll see if there are any questions. Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Do we have any questions?
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
So we have a special offering of the day for the goddess.
Yes.
Is it okay to take that offering from my heart? Is it just as good?
Absolutely. It tastes delicious. You get the choice. Every one of you gets a choice. Do you want to go to the store and buy the ingredients and then come home and put them away and then get up early in the morning before your puja and prepare them? And then bring that preparation to the altar, and then sit down and do the worship, and then make the offering? Or you want to just sit down, make the offering, and make the puja longer, and reach into the garden of delight and pull out every offering? Now we have special offerings for the goddess. We have an offering every day, we have an offering every month, we have an offering for every tithi. So now there are 3 special offerings every day. One goes all month long, one goes every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, one goes from Pratipad, Dwitiyam, Tritiyam, Vivinyadi. So do you want to put your attention on the offerings? I promise you, if you learn the mantra, the offering will come. If you go out and pursue the offering, you may or may not learn the mantra. But if you do learn the mantra, the offering will come. I can guarantee it. I can show you from my experience. We came to America, we used to make puja in a plate. We would take a thali and we'd put some flowers on it, we'd put an incense on it, we'd put a candle on it, we'd make up the pushpe, and we put the puja in a plate, and then we graduated to a garage. And then we graduated to a warehouse. And then we graduated to 42 acres with 13,000 square feet, and it's still not big enough. The puja keeps going and growing all around the world. If you learn the mantras, the articles will come. If you learn how to prepare the articles, that's nice too. Please come and cook for us. Are there other questions, please? Yes, please.
You mentioned the Upa Vedas.
Yes.
And that they're inferior to the 3 Vedas.
Well, they're almost Vedas. In other words, they give us directions about living life in certain areas of life. So they are not the same as the union between the Atma and the Paramatma. And in that sense, they are lesser. They're not inferior, but they talk about a different subject. We are interested here in the highest wisdom of how do you unite the Atma with the Paramatma.
In the Atharva Veda, it comes forth, sometimes it's not mentioned, because we sometimes say there's just the three Vedas. You said that it's the synthesis of the Vedas into our lives. How does that, it comes later, and how is it compared to the other three Vedas?
No, it was there are two parts to all of the Vedas. There's the karma kand, which are the actions which will bring you to the Jnana kand, which is the wisdom of unity. Now, you can't get to the wisdom of unity without doing something. The karma kand says, this is something you can do. This is something you can practice. Now, within that karma kand, it says the first thing you have to do before you can even start thinking about doing puja is put your life in harmony. Put your life in balance. You have to know when do you plow the field and when do you sow the seeds and when do you harvest the crops, when do you water and when do you... How does life, what is the rhythm of life? What are the economics of life? What is the household life? What is the harmony of the family? This is all contained in Atharva Veda. And there are numerous pujas. Most of the karma kand comes from Atharva Veda. Yes, please.
We have a question from Julia.
Namaste, Julia. I'm so glad you told us about the website today. Thank you so much.
From last week, we had do not contemplate the faults of others. Is this like loving the sinner but not the sin? We have been trained in all aspects of living to recognize flaws in ourselves, circumstances, and others. So how should we balance this knowledge and discrimination with acceptance? Sarada Devi said, don't find faults in anyone.
She was right. So did Ram. Don't find faults in anyone. But look out for the faults that in our own selves that we don't want to repeat. So I don't want to replicate the faulty behavior of others. I'm not going to condemn this individual or that individual for their faulty behavior or their wrong behavior, but I certainly condemn the fault. I don't want the others to be subjected to the same fault as an individual who committed it. So, yes, you're absolutely right. We want to be on guard and put that information into our storehouse of knowledge, our chitta, and say, this is not the kind of behavior that's going to bring me closer to my goal. So therefore, it's to be excluded. I don't have to study how to make bombs in pressure cookers. It's not part of my curriculum. I don't need this information. I need the information that's going to show me how to unite myself with all the paths, to be in harmony in every circumstance, to maintain my center even under the most oppressive circumstances, to maintain my center and maintain my poise and retain the wisdom of the Vedas is going to be with me always. Let us respond from that wisdom, from that center. So nobody has the authority to permeate our armor. We establish the vibration within. We cover it with a kavach. We have a suit of armor, and we are impervious to all the crazy things that go on in the world of human beings. No antagonistic vibration can permeate my armor. And that will be the sign of a true devotee. You stay in devotion, no matter what the circumstance. You put an interlude of discrimination between a stimulus and a response. And then you stay in devotion and give the appropriate response designed to generate the kind of outcome that you're searching.
We have a question from Papia.
Namaste, Papia. Ma was saying that we should go visit you just this morning.
Can you tell us something about the white and black Yajur Veda?
Yes, I can, but there's a lot to say. The Yajur Veda actually was 80 chapters, and then it divided it into two. Shukla Yajur Veda, it's not quite the white one, but it's the bright one, or the illuminated one, and the Krishna Yajur Veda, which is the story of evolution and involution. So we have 40 chapters of Shukla Yajur Veda and 40 chapters of Krishna Yajur Veda. They are very, very similar in material, but the emphasis of the Shukla Yajur Veda is on illumination, and the emphasis of the Krishna Yajur Veda is in dissolution. How do you return to your origin? How do you return to your center? So we're going to give some verses from the Shukla Yajur Veda and tell about the expansive manifestation, and then we end this book with a verse from the Krishna Yajur Veda, which talks about the ultimate unity. And that's how the two portions of Yajur Veda come into harmony.
We have a question from Nanda in San Jose.
Namaste, Nanda. Boy, did we miss you this weekend.
What is the best mantra or puja to pray for someone that has committed an unforgivable sin, like the Boston bombers or the Delhi rapist?
There are so many of them, but I always come back to the Mool mantra of the Sanatana Dharma. I'm sorry, just a mouthful. That you got to come back to the Mool mantra, the root of all the wisdom of the eternal ideals of perfection, and that's Gayatri. Can you illuminate this circumstance with wisdom? Tat Savitur Varinyam, that highest light of wisdom. Bhargo Devasya Dhimati. We contemplate the highest wealth of the gods. Dio Yona, give to us Pracha Udoya. Make it rise and rise and rise. Make that light of wisdom rise up within us so that we have the discrimination to know how do you pray. And then, after you've prayed in such a way, the Mool mantra of Sanatana Dharma, Nanda, I believe that we will be endowed with the sufficient discrimination to choose the other mantras which are specific to the circumstances. So use Gayatri. Bhur Bhuva Swaha, on the gross level, the subtle level, the causal body, and all that is beyond. We contemplate, we meditate upon that light of wisdom, which is the highest wealth of the gods. Give to us continuous increase. Make it rise. It's a sunrise. Let it get brighter and brighter and brighter until there is nothing but the light of wisdom shining in the eastern horizon. And Nanda, I believe that will be the best resolution of all of our difficulties. That will give us the teaching that we need in order to pursue the further definition of what has to be done. Yes, please.
I have a question. How are the 4 parts of negotiation, giving, staying in equilibrium, dividing, how are those part of the ideal of perfection?
Every relationship requires negotiation. You guys share a room. You snore and he stays up all night on the computer. You got to negotiate. Now, how do you negotiate the harmony of your situation? You got 2 lions in one little room. Now, how do we negotiate that? Let's come together as brothers. Let's come together as Guru Bhais. Let's come together with equality, with equanimity, with peace, with love. I don't want him shouting at you. Why are you snoring in the night? Yeah, you snore, you don't know. Wait, I don't want you shouting at him. Why are you up hacking all night long? Yeah, you know why he is. The only free internet is at night. We're going to come together. We have to negotiate everything we do. Please don't leave your cup in the sink. Please don't. You gotta. We want to live in harmony. Don't leave your dishes in the sink. Get up and we'll all wash them together. We'll find a way to make harmony in every circumstance, in every situation, all through our daily lives. There's no reason to come to confrontation. That is to be avoided as much as possible. Let them start the confrontation if it has to come to confrontation. But we can come as intelligent devotees and use Sam, Dhamma, and Veda. And thereafter, well, for example, Veda, he left his cup in the sink. He left a dish there. As an intelligent devotee, wouldn't you go to the other devotees and say, hey, devotees, look at the cup and the dish in the sink. Don't you think it's appropriate that we stand here and wash their dishes? Hey, everybody, Swami, would you please come to the kitchen? I would like you to wash the dish that's in the sink because it was too hard for the devotee to remember. Veda. We're creating a little division between the miscreant and his allies. You understand how that could help in the negotiation? Everybody come, please. Let's all gather around and see whose lipstick is on that dish. Whose lip print is on that cup. Who would leave that for Swami and Sri? Let's call Srima. Please come to the kitchen and help us wash the dish because it was too big a for some devotee to do. I mean, they are too important. Obviously, your time is not important. So please, you come and wash the dish that was left in the sink. End of the problem? Could be. Because I guarantee you, when I come over to your...
If Srima comes.
If Srima comes. Yeah, and Swami comes, it's not the end of the problem. It's the beginning of a bigger problem. The Sama, Dhamma, Veda, and when necessary, Dhamma. Put them up. We don't think it should become necessary. You guys are all intelligent devotees. You should find ways to negotiate. So the first rule of negotiation is establish rapport. I'm not coming to yell at you or fight with you or disagree with you. Let's see how we can create a greater harmony for all of us. We're all in this together, Shaman. We're in the state of peace, in the state of equilibrium, in the state of equality. We're all brothers and sisters in the family of Ma, living in Mother's house. How does Mother want to keep her house? We could all do that ourselves. She doesn't have to get involved in determining who's going to wash the dish that was left in the sink. Does she? No. Okay, Shama. Dhamma. Well, you know what? It's not such a big deal. I'll do it. I don't want you to be inconvenienced by washing your dish. I'll do it. Dhamma. Veda. Well, let's call Ma and see, let her make the ruling on this. Or let Swami make the ruling on this. Who's going to wash the dish? Dunda. All right. Let's start throwing pots and pans. Put them up. Those are how the four elements of diplomacy are going to come into every negotiation which you do, every negotiation in which you are involved, you're going to use those four. And they are the elements of diplomacy. You better learn them. I mean, if you haven't learned them by now, you better learn them because in every negotiation, you're going to either come together as equals. So you come together and you establish rapport. And the next thing is you define your terms. What do you want? What do I want to get? And what do I have to give? The third thing is you look for trades. How can we trade this? Then the fourth step is you try to add value to your position. But look how good mine is. I mean, mine is much better than what you're offering to me. And then ultimately, you complete the transaction. And maybe you win a few and maybe you lose a few, but it all comes out in the end. You'll find that you make progress through life by observing these 5 aspects of every negotiation. Establish rapport, define your terms, look for trades, add value to your position, and then complete the transaction. In everything you do, whether you're negotiating a driver's license or the lack of a driver's license, whatever you do, you're going to use these 5 principles. You might as well learn them, because they'll be very helpful if you know at what stage of the negotiation I'm engaged in right now. That's very helpful knowledge. Where are we? I don't want you to go back to square one. We've already defined the terms. We've already looked for trades. Why are you going back and starting all over again? Come on. Let's not prolong this process any more than is necessary. So we understand, what does it mean to have the 4 elements of diplomacy, samadama dandave, and the 5 elements of negotiation. And all of a sudden you've got a context in which you can act with effectiveness, efficiency in everything you do, in every relationship. Whether you're negotiating the snoring in your bedroom, or the dish in the sink, or whatever it may be. So these will be a very helpful knowledge. Yes, please.
One of our definitions of being a Hindu is nonviolence.
Yes.
So how do we navigate the danda aspect of that with that sort of thing in mind?
Don't start it first. Remember the story of the sannyasi who told the snake, "Don't bite the kids." And the kid said, "What happened to the snake? He's not biting anymore. Let's go torture him. We'll pay him back for all the stuff that he did to us, all the times he scared us." And they went and they threw stones at him. They beat him with sticks. And the snake just shriveled up and crawled into his hole. And the sannyasi came back and said, "What happened to you? I told you not to bite anybody." He said, "Guruji, I didn't bite anybody. I thought it was practical not to practice non-violence. So I didn't threaten anybody. I didn't hit anybody. I didn't bite anybody." And the sadhu said, "But I didn't tell you not to hiss." So if you have to fight, you're going to have to at least hiss. You don't have to pick up your weapons, but you could certainly give them a good fright and let them know that they're not going to get it for free. Are there any other questions? Yes, please.
I have a question from last week.
Go ahead.
We were talking about the koshas and
Yes.
how we were trying to raise our consciousness into the higher realms. And I was thinking about the Manamaya kosh and how the definition of mantra is mantrayate. And sometimes we use pranayam and things like that to help that process of getting out of our minds. And I was wondering, because it seems like we would want to be bringing our awareness upwards towards the Vijnanamaya kosh instead of bringing it down into the Pranamaya kosh. Why would we want to be focusing on our breath with the mantra rather than trying to move upwards?
You will use the mantra to go in, and you use the breath to go in, and the breath to go out. So the breath is the avenue of ingress and egress from the external world to the internal world. So when you bring in the mantra, where the breath stops, the mind takes over. Where the mind stops, the light, the Vijnanamaya kosh takes over. And when Vijnanamaya can't go any higher, then the Anandamaya takes over. So the breath is the media through which the external world comes in and the internal world goes out. We inhale Satchitananda coming from the creation. And we process it inside, and we feed ourselves inside, and we illuminate all our thoughts, and we bring them to Satchitananda, and we take the Satchitananda inside, and we bring it right back out and to the light, and to the mind, and to the breath, and to the creation. So you inhale, and you exhale. And that's the media through which we create the relationship between the inner world and the outer world. Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaha.